Hello everyone. In the first part, I gave a clear idea about the character sketch of the Macavity and introduced new vocabulary. I hope you understand that. Today, in this part, I am going to explain the poem line by line. Macavity, the Mystery Cat by T.S. Eliot. Let's begin with the explanation of the poem. This poem is divided into 4 stanzas. The real version of the poem has 6 to 7 stanzas. So let us begin with the Macavity Mystery Cat stanza number 1. Macavity is a mystery cat. He is called the hidden paw, for he is the master criminal who can defy the law. He is the bafflement of Scotland Yard, the flying squad's despair. For when they reach the scene of crime, Macavity is not there. Macavity is a mystery cat. He is called a hidden paw. Now, what do you mean by the word hidden paw? What do you mean by the word bafflement of Scotland Yard, the flying squad? Do you know what are Scotland Yard or flying squad in the poem? Let's learn about it. Macavity is agile, cunning and master of deceit. It is called a hidden paw, as it accomplishes all the works in complete secrecy. Macavity is a criminal mastermind and is a mystery cat, as no crime agency was ever able to arrest this criminal mastermind. He is too clever to leave any evidence. He is a puzzle for every detective agency in the world, including Scotland Yard and Flying Squad. Macavity is actually called a hidden paw, for he is the master criminal who can defy the law. Macavity, as I told, is a secret cat, and paw is used because we are referring to a cat, and Macavity does all its work in secrecy. It does not let anyone know about the crime, and it does not leave any evidence behind, so that Macavity is regarded as a hidden paw. What is the meaning of the word bafflement? Bafflement is confusion. Macavity is a great confusion for Scotland Yard and Flying Squad. No one is able to find any clue on the crime spot. Here, Scotland Yard and Flying Squad refers to the best detective agency in the world, as they are not able to find any clue on the crime spot, and hence they are not able to arrest Macavity. And why is Macavity a puzzle? Macavity is a puzzle for every detective agency, including Scotland Yard, as Macavity leaves no evidence behind, and Macavity is actually too clever to be caught at the crime spot. Let's move on to the next stanza. Macavity, there is no one like Macavity. He's broken every human law. He breaks the law of gravity. His powers of levitation would make a fakir stare. And when you reach the scene of crime, Macavity is not there. You may seek him in the basement, you may look up in the air, but I tell you once and once again, Macavity is not there. Now, let's divide this stanza into different parts and get to know what each line means. Macavity, there is no one like Macavity. Here the poet is stressing upon the fact that there is no one like Macavity cat. He has broken every human law and breaks the law of gravity. What do you mean by the law of gravity here? Anything that goes up is bound to come down due to the force of the attraction of the earth called as gravity. Macavity breaks the law of gravity as he floats in the air without any support. Thus he breaks the nature's law of gravity. His powers of levitation would make a fakir stare, and when you reach the scene of crime, Macavity is not there. Next, what do you mean by powers of levitation, and what do you mean by the word fakir and the word fakir stare? Macavity's power of levitation actually refers to the power of Macavity to fly. Macavity has a special power to fly, and fakir here refers to a religious man. Religious man, we refer them as sadhu. They are supposed to have some magical powers, and even they are surprised with Macavity. The fakirs are supposed to have some magical powers, yet they stare at Macavity and they are shocked at the power of levitation and other powers of Macavity. You may seek him in the basement, you may look up in the air, but I tell you once and once again. So, where does one search for Macavity? When one rushes to the scene of crime, Macavity is not found because Macavity does not leave any evidence behind, and those who look after him find him neither in the basement nor in the air. Basement refers to under the earth, air refers to the sky. Macavity is not there. Let's come to the third stanza. Macavity is a ginger cat. He is very tall and thin. You would know him if you saw him, for his eyes are sunken in. His brow is deeply lined with thought. His head is highly domed. His coat is dusty from neglect. His whiskers are uncombed. He sways his head from side to side with movements like a snake. And when you think he is half asleep, he is always wide awake. Let's go with the flow and see what do you mean by each line in this stanza. Macavity is a ginger cat. Actually, it doesn't mean that Macavity loves to eat ginger. Here, it refers to the color of the cat. Macavity is red and brown in color or brownish red color, and also it is high-spirited and clever. You would know him if you saw him, for his eyes are sunken in. These lines basically tell you about the appearances of the Macavity cat. The eyes of Macavity are sunken inside the face of Macavity cat. They look sunken inside the face of Macavity. His brow is deeply lined with thought. His head is highly domed. Whenever we are thinking, our brows, develop lines. The brow is deeply lined with thought. It is highly domed. Domed actually means it is round. His coat is dusty. Here, Macavity is so busy in thinking about conspiracies for the future that Macavity does not have time to take care of its fur. The coat here refers to the fur, and his whiskers are also less uncombed. So, how does Macavity look like? Macavity is a very special cat. He is very tall and thin. His eyes are deep set in his face. His brows has deep wrinkles as if he is lost in a deep thought due to neglect. His coat is full of dust. He has a round head, domed head. His whiskers are not trimmed. This is the appearance of Macavity. He sways his head from side to side with movements like a snake. In the next line, we have a simile with a movement like a snake. Like a snake is a simile, and when you think he is off asleep, he is always wide awake. How does Macavity keep the enemies away? Macavity seldom sleeps. It moves his head from side to side with movements like a snake, showing least movements like the way snakes move, leisurely side to side. He appears to be asleep, but that is only to fool his captors, police, and enemies. You would feel he is half asleep, but in reality, Macavity is wide awake. It is only to fool the enemies. The last stanza. Macavity, Macavity, there is no one like Macavity, for he is a fiend in felon shape, a monster of depravity. You may meet him in a by street, you may see him in the square, but when a crime is discovered, then Macavity is not there. What do you mean by some phrases in these lines like fiend in felon shape and the monster of depravity? Let's study about it. So again the poet is stressing about Macavity. Macavity, there is no one like Macavity. Macavity has a look of a cat, but that's not all. Macavity is a fiend in felon shape is a metaphor here. Fiend means devil. Fiend in felon shape means devil in the shape of a cat. Monster of depravity is also a metaphor. It means monster of wickedness. These two phrases shows that Macavity is a devil in cat's shape. So, where can Macavity be seen? Macavity can be seen in a by street or in a square. Actually, it means a open place. You may see him in the next street or you may see him in an open space. But when the crime is discovered, everyone knows that the crime is done by Macavity. But When the crime is discovered at that time, Macavity disappeared using the power of levitation. He disappears from the place without leaving any evidence behind. Without evidence, Macavity cannot be arrested. When the crime is discovered, Macavity is not there. The poet admires the cat for his swift movement, expert criminality, and the way he gives a slip to the police. But he is a lawbreaker at the same time. So the poet calls him a devil and giant, wicked and morally corrupt. This was all about the explanation of the poem. Next, we will move on to the poetic devices used by the poet in this poem. Eliot uses many literary techniques to make the poem appear humorous to the readers. Instead of using a human as the main character, he uses a cat and attributes human qualities to it. The list of literary devices used in the poem is analyzed below. First one is simile. A simile is a figure of speech in which two dissimilar objects are compared, and the comparison is made clear by the use of terms like, such as, and so on. He sways his head from side to side with movements like a snake. Is a fine example of simile in this poem. Next one is repetition. The lines "Macavity is not there" has been repeated a number of times in this poem to emphasize on the fact that the cat is too clever to be caught. Macavity, Macavity, there is no one like Macavity is another line which is repeated in this poem to highlight the fact that there is only one criminal mastermind, and that is Macavity alone. The rhyme scheme of this poem, Macavity the Mystery Cat, is AABB. It is a lyric poem. My dear children, we have gone through a detailed explanation of the poem. At the end, questions and answers are also given. Please note it down and learn. I'll meet you soon in the next video. Thank you, children. Stay safe.